Hi, I'm Sharon Cummins, the historian for the Kennebunkport Historical Society. I've really enjoyed showing you some of our thousands of photographs over the years on Throwback Thursday, but it occurred to me that some of the most historically significant pieces that we have in the collection are not photographs. Some of them were created before photography was invented. I'd like to show you and explain the relevance to our local history of some of the rarely seen items in our collection. I hope you find them as interesting as I do. We're going to call this new feature Time Travel Tuesday, though I don't promise it'll appear every Tuesday.
Most of what we have come to think of as the French and Indian Wars in New England would more accurately be described as wars between the French and the English for control over the North American continent. King George's War was no different. Colonists and indigenous people here were drawn into the struggle for power by the two European rivals. Louisbourg was a French stronghold on Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. Not only was it a military stronghold for France in 1745, but it was also becoming a very profitable mercantile trading center. England wanted control of it. The ambitious Governor Shirley of Massachusetts took it upon himself to volunteer the scrappy militiamen of New England to conquer Louisbourg for the English. Fishermen, blacksmiths, barbers, shoemakers, carpenters, and sea captains boarded 100 small sloops and schooners headed for Louisbourg in the spring of 1745. They landed along the wooded shore west of the town and attacked by land while the French guns were pointed out to sea. The New England militia, used to wilderness fighting, secured one of the French batteries first. The siege lasted 49 days, after which the town was surrendered to the New England forces on the 17th of June, 1745. Captain Thomas Perkins, who built the circa 1724 house on Oak Street, that we believe to be the oldest house still standing in Kennebunkport, led a company of Arundel men to Louisbourg with the help of Lieutenant John Burbank and Ensign John Murphy. After conquering Louisbourg, the Arundel Company was expected to occupy the city until the French had left and the British claimed their prize. But a large percentage of the New England militiamen were sick. Thomas Perkins wrote a letter to Governor Shirley requesting that his company be allowed to return home, as many of the men were sick and their families were destitute without them. According to Reverend Hovey's journal, the privates were finally allowed to return home to Arundel August 1st, but the officers remained at Cape Breton till the following year. Within 3 years, control of Louisbourg was given back to France in exchange for a port in India France had captured from the English. Captain Perkins brought home this salt-glazed stoneware pitcher as a souvenir of his expedition to Louisbourg. It remained in the Perkins family for generations before Mrs. Irving C. Perkins donated it to the Kennebunkport Historical Society in 1989 in the name of Irving Clement Perkins. The donor called it a Leeds jug. As you can see by the raised figures partying around the belly of the pitcher, it was probably often filled with rum while at Louisbourg. We have no direct knowledge of how the Perkins family used it, but when Kenneth Roberts wrote about this very pitcher in his historical novel Arundel, he plausibly claimed they kept it full of cider. Kenneth Roberts wrote, "In doing so, I accept the judgment of my father, who was wise in woodcraft and somehow versed in the ways of mankind at large, though he had traveled little except to Louisbourg on Cape Breton, where 2,000 of our colonists drank untold quantities of rum and captured the city from the French. It was from Louisbourg that he brought home as booty our silver sugar bowl and the large white pitcher with raised figures of dancing countrymen around it, the same pitcher we now use for cider on a winter's night, when the ice cakes click and scrape on the sand beyond our garden at the mouth of the Arundel River."